Coming up on today's show, Ford's electric vehicle plans and EV lineup lead it to get a $100 billion valuation for the first time in its history. The US National Automotive Dealers Association say they're fully on board with electric vehicles, just as lawmakers begin to reconsider the franchise laws that have prevented most automakers from selling directly to customers. And Sony demonstrates how its Vision S electric car can be driven remotely from half a world away. These stories and more coming next. This is Ecotricity's EcoTEC Roundup show from New Zealand's only carboNZero certified renewable electricity company. We only source from wind, hydro and solar, and we are the leading supplier of electricity to EVs in New Zealand. Switch today at ecotricity.co.nz. Welcome back to another roundup in the world of clean cars and green energy. I hope you're well. Thanks for joining me. It is no secret that Tesla is currently the world's most valued automaker, with a market cap of more than $1 trillion, thanks to its approach to EVs, sales and service. For a while, we've wondered if other automakers could follow Tesla's lead by focusing on electric vehicles, and the answer appears to be yes. This week, Ford's stock market valuation crossed $100 billion, something that Wall Street analysts say is directly connected to 140% stock value growth during last year, something that made it the fastest growing stock in the automotive industry. That, in turn, is connected to the strong demand Ford is experiencing for its F-150 Lightning pickup, and more importantly, steps that Ford is taking to meet that demand. Ford may not be close to being a 100% electric vehicle company yet, but it is executing an ambitious plan that could see it become the largest manufacturer of EV batteries in the US by 2025. Tesla stock took a hit this week as the company changed the wording on its Cybertruck order paid, removing the trailing words in 2022 from the sentence, quote, "You will be able to complete your configuration as production nears," end quote. Some news outlets, including Reuters, claimed Cybertruck will be delayed until 2023, citing anonymous sources close to the company. Without an official press team, it's really hard to fact-check these claims. But later this month, we'll get to hear from the horse's mouth on Cybertruck, as Elon Musk has confirmed on Twitter that he will be present for Tesla's upcoming earnings call in order to give a, quote, Cybertruck roadmap update. The earnings call will be broadcast on Tesla's investor relations channel shortly after the Q4 and year-end results are released at close of markets in New York on January 26th. Supporters of hydrogen fuel cell technology have long championed it as a transportation technology of the future today, while detractors of the same technology have, for almost as long, said it's the technology of the future that will always remain in the future. But for one French city, the wait for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles has just been too long. 2 years ago, the city of Montpelier in the south of France announced a programme to transition its fleet of buses from internal combustion power to hydrogen fuel cell power. But now, the city's metropolitan transit group, La Métropole de Montpellier, announced it scrapped its hydrogen fuel cell plans before a single bus was even delivered. Instead of spending €29 million on 51 hydrogen fuel cell buses and a dedicated 2.8 megawatt peak solar-powered electrolyzing plant that was intending to produce 800 kilograms of hydrogen per day, the city will purchase battery electric vehicles instead. The history of franchise auto dealer legislation in the US is a long and complex one, and actually we're going to be planning a video on that at some point in the future. But the TLDR is that while auto dealer franchise laws were originally intended to protect car customers from greedy automakers, they've ultimately evolved to take advantage of car customers, with additional dealer markups and plenty more shady practices spoiling it for everyone. Even automakers, as shown last week by Ford, have had enough. And with dealer networks often but not always eschewing EVs, some legislatures around the US are considering changing their auto dealer franchise laws to allow car companies to sell their vehicles directly to customers. So it's no surprise that the National Auto Dealer Association is stepping up its efforts to go all in on EVs, stating that it now is fully behind the technology, believing it's best placed to help the US transition to EVs. History would disagree, so the NADA has a lot of work ahead to prove it really means what it says. Following a growing trend in the automotive world, Renault has revisited its roadmap for transitioning its fleet to electric. Previously, the brand said it would achieve a 90% electric vehicle mix by 2030, but now it is targeting 100% electric by 2030. This goal is likely tied to the current European Union legislation that is set to ban the sale of all new internal combustion engine vehicles by 2035. Nevertheless, it means that we can look forward to more electric vehicles from Renault in the future. Sadly, as is usually the case with these kind of statements, there are some catches. Firstly, Renault will only be going 100% electric in Europe by 2030, and second, Renault's budget brand Dacia, which Renault had previously stated would struggle to go electric due to cost, will go electric, quote, at the last possible moment to represent the brand's, quote, value for money proposition. There's been some question as if Nissan intends to keep its LEAF hatchback in production after its all-new Ariya SUV begins shipping, and it's been known for some while that Ariya and LEAF would be sold alongside one another in Europe. But in North America, there have certainly been concerns that Ariya would become Nissan's only EV. Nissan confirmed this week, however, that won't be the case, stating the Nissan LEAF will be shifted slightly in its offerings, with the entry-level Nissan LEAF expected to come in at just over $28,000, well below the starting price of the Ariya. If you add in federal tax credits, which all plug-in Nissans are still eligible for, although not every person will have a tax liability large enough to apply it to, and you could be looking at a Nissan LEAF from just over 20 grand. It might have only been on sale for a year or so, but Volkswagen has confirmed that the 2022 model ID.4 is getting some tweaks and tucks over its predecessor. First, and most importantly for some, charging gets a tweak, with maximum DC quick charging increasing to 135 kilowatts peak over the 125 kilowatt peak of last year's model. Plug and charge, a really useful technology that is quickly becoming expected in all EVs and dramatically improves public charging experience when it works, is also now standard. Auto hold is also coming for the new model year, which, alongside the charger power increase and plug and charge, will be rolled out to older vehicles via an over-the-air update. There's a modest price increase in the US of just over $700 for all models, but if you do have a 2021 model year on order and it hasn't been built yet, you'll get a voucher to upgrade to a 2022. Late last year, we reported that Rivian chose a manufacturing location in Georgia to supplement its existing production facility in Normal, Illinois. This week, we learned via the Rivian forum just how big that facility will be, after site plans were submitted to the relevant authorities. The new factory will occupy nearly 20 million square feet, or 2,000 acres if you prefer. That is 5 times the size of Rivian's current production facility, and it will feature multiple buildings, parking lots, and test areas, including a traditional test track, and of course, being Rivian, a dedicated off-road adventure trail. It's not clear yet if the latter will be used just to test vehicles, but I see a potential business opportunity for Rivian to follow Jaguar Land Rover and offer customers one-on-one training sessions on a dedicated track, just so that those customers can safely learn the fuel capabilities of their new off-road capable EV. Talking of off-road vehicles, regular viewers will know that things have gone awfully quiet at EV startup Bollinger of late, especially given the official reveal of its B1 and B2 happened more than 2 years ago. Early on Friday, though, we got the first news in an age, namely that the company has suspended all development of its B1 and B2 off-road trucks, ostensibly to focus instead on development of a commercial vehicle platform. While several of us here love the design simplicity of the B1 and B2, which frankly reminds me of the original Land Rover, I'm guessing that in the age of compelling electric pickups from Rivian, Ford and others, customers aren't so happy putting down 6 figures for a bare bones, if competent, truck. A range of models are promised by Bollinger for the commercial platform, ranging from Class 3 all the way up to Class 6, and I think it's going to be interesting to see where the company goes to from here. Every year, consulting firm Deloitte carries out its annual automotive study, polling customers on their attitude towards new technologies in the automotive sector. We've watched with interest over the years as attitudes have changed towards EVs, but this year's just released report shows there's a lot of work to be done before everyone is happy dumping the pump. 58% of Chinese and 58% of Indian customers said they anticipate their next car being an internal combustion engine one, with 66% of customers in Southeast Asia and 69% of US respondents saying the same thing. That, by the way, does not include hybrids. Only Japanese, German and Korean respondents appear more likely to go with some form of electrified drivetrain over an internal combustion one for their next car. And in the US, the largest worry is range, with most respondents saying they want an EV with 500 miles of range before they switch. Oh, and when they do switch, more than one half of US buyers said no to paying extra to doing so. EV world has so much work to do, and frankly, it's both simultaneously depressing and disappointing. As you probably know, it was CES last week, and because we were covering the event virtually, we did miss out on a few stories that have since made us pretty excited. One story we didn't miss on covering was Sony's entry into the automotive world, with an all-new electric SUV shown on stage alongside the Sony Vision S that we saw at CES in 2020. But what we did miss was a demonstration that Sony filmed back in December, in which one of its Vision S prototype electric cars was driven remotely. Now, I know what you're thinking, big deal, remote operation. But in this case, the car was driven remotely using a Sony PlayStation steering wheel from Tokyo, Japan, over a 5G wireless internet connection, while the car itself was at a test track in Germany. The whole thing is both impressive and a little scary, so be sure to check it out below when we're done. And finally, because of some pretty tight regulations surrounding the reselling of prototype and test fleet electric vehicles, the exact excuse used by many automakers over the years to crush many different drivable leased electric vehicles throughout history, the majority of prototype cars are dismantled and recycled by their respective automakers after they've served their useful purpose of testing. And the Hyundai IONIQ 5 is no exception, with prototypes that helped the automaker bring the IONIQ 5 to market, now pretty much no longer needed. But rather than simply dismantle the car and send its various parts to the crusher, a team at Hyundai, helped I'd suspect by the amazing ad team they currently have at the firm, did something different. They turned a prototype IONIQ 5 into an air purifier. The result is both a unique piece of furniture and a unique video, which, alongside the IONIQ 5's recent screen debut in Spider-Man No Way Home, is well worth a watch. I love it when ad companies get creative. It's really nice. And on that note, we are done for the day. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next episode. And if you haven't already switched, please consider switching to New Zealand's only carboNZero certified renewable electricity company. It is super easy to make the switch, and when you do, you'll be helping New Zealand wean itself off dirty energy and onto clean green power that will keep the land beautiful. I'll be back next week with more awesome content, but until then, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield. Ka kite! See you next time.